Hello everyone, this is Achaia, Achaia, bringing you another shoutcast here in StarCraft 2. This is a 1v1 on the map Metalopolis, and I am playing against a Terran player. He is the red up in the top middle here. His name is NokturnuS, and we actually had the fortunate ability to have our paths cross twice in a row. Right after this game, we actually ended up getting matched up in the matchmaking a second time, which was kind of interesting because obviously we had learned a little bit about each other's playstyle after the first game. So in the second game, we had to kind of change things up a little bit to try to, you know, fool the opponent, so to speak. Anyways, one of the things I wanted to show off in this map is the updated Zerg mechanic for the Nydus Canal. In case you have not seen it, it operates a little bit differently than StarCraft 1. It's now only Tier 2 tech instead of Tier 3 tech, and it is no longer a one-to-one transportation method, as in, if you remember in StarCraft 1, you would build a Nydus Canal, and then you would build the exit point somewhere, and basically those two, that intro and exit point, would only connect to each other. So you would send units in one end, they would pop out the other end at the same time, no matter what. The way the Nydus works in the new StarCraft 2 is you build the main Nydus Network building at your base, or you can build it anywhere as long as it's on creep. And then what you can do is summon a Nydus worm anywhere on the map that you have vision. So it can be in the back of an enemy's base, it can be in the back of an ally's base, it can be in the middle of the map, it can be wherever you want to, and you can summon multiple Nydus worms. And it costs 100 minerals and 100 gas for each one of those Nydus worms that you summon, and I believe it takes 10 seconds for the worm. Once you select where it's going to come up, it takes 10 seconds for the worm to come up from that place. Now once the worm comes up, the way you transfer units is everything has to be loaded into the Nydus Network building at your main base. So you load units into that, and then you go and select whichever Nydus worm you want the units to come out of, because if you have 5 Nydus worms in different points in the map, you can send them to any one of those 5 Nydus worms from your Nydus Network hub in your main base. And basically what you do, you'll see it in a little bit here when I use the mechanic, but you select the Nydus worm, and then there's an unload button similar to what you would see on like a shuttle. So basically what happens here is, as you can see, I'm scouting the map. I got my drone up here. I see that the Terran player has blocked off his choke, which is a very common thing for Terran players to do. Protoss players do that sometimes as well. Not a hard block off like what the Terrans are doing here, because obviously the Terrans can raise and lower their supply depots and use them as a gate of sorts, but the Protoss players will often make a semi-wall off and leave like a narrow choke, and then use zealots or stalkers or something along those lines to block off the rest of it. That way it's still a block off, but they can move the units to get in and out of their base as the game progresses. That way they're not completely blocked in. Now going to the Terran players, the rest of their base here, they've got their mule, which they apparently called it down over here, which is kind of weird. Just a quick tip, if you're ever playing Terran, you can call the mule down directly onto a mineral line. It'll drop down directly on the mineral line, and as soon as it comes out of that little drop pod, it'll start mining minerals immediately, so you don't have to give it any additional commands or anything to do that. He does have 1 gas geyser going right now, so he's getting a little bit of gas, and it looks like he's getting the shield upgrade for his Marines for that. So he's got a few Marines out here guarding the choke along with the supply depot block off with the barracks, and putting up a second barracks right now. Excuse me. And basically I'm going for the layer tech so I can get the Nydus Canals, because I know, or sorry, the Nydus Worms. It was called the Nydus Canal in SC1, but I know that I can't get up his ramp right now because of that. And Lings on a narrow choke like that are typically not enough, even if they've just got a few Marines behind the supply depots, because especially if they've got even just one SCV repairing the supply depot, there's not a big enough surface area for the Lings to attack it to kill it fast enough that you can actually get up into the base. So the options there are basically you can either get some range to go along with it, such as roaches or hydralisks, or you can go to air, such as mutalisks or broodlords, or the other option, of course, is to do some kind of a transportation method, such as the Nydus Network or the Overlord transportation. Going back to show you what's going on here, I am getting some roaches because I did notice that he had 2 barracks when I was scouting initially, so I knew he was going to go pretty heavy infantry. And I'm also putting a creep tumor out here. What this does is it's something that your queen can put down, and it expands the creep. As you can see, it's moving out here, so that it's similar to a creep colony in StarCraft 1. Now the defensive structures in StarCraft 2 are no longer built from a creep colony, so if you build spine crawlers and spore crawlers, your creep is not going is not going to expand at all from those buildings. So if you want to expand it, your options are you can either have an overlord. Okay, yeah, he had some guys in there, so I went ahead and killed those. But anyways, you can have your overlords generate creep. The thing about this is it spreads over an area, but the overlord cannot drop the creep and move on. The overlord has to generate creep continuously. So the overlord is more or less locked in that position for the duration of however long you want to have creep there. So that is a useful mechanic if you need to have... I've seen people try to generate creep highways of sorts so that you can get to your allies quicker and things like that, or you can defend your expansions quicker. I've also seen people just use it to... like if you put it at expansions, you can block other races from building expansions there immediately. They would have to actually send something that could kill an air unit. So, you know, if they're Terran, they would need Marines out there, or Stalkers if they're Protoss. Anyways, here's the Nydus Network, though. I just built that. I built it off of my main. You can see the scan is over on my main building, so he can't see that I have this Nydus Network right now, which is good. And what I do here is I got an overlord on the back of this base. These vents that are blowing up the steam here block line of sight, so he cannot see that I have an overlord over here. And since I've got vision here, I'll go ahead and switch to my vision. I've got vision there. I can put a Nydus Network in this area, which I believe I do here in just a second once I have a few more forces. And then once that Nydus Network, yeah, here it is. So it only takes a few seconds to build, and then the Nydus pops up out of the ground, and then you have to select the unit. And I don't know if I'll be able to see this in the replay or not, but you select the unit, and then you can select units to unload from the Nydus Network once you've loaded them in. Yeah, here we go. Current cargo. So this is anything that I've loaded up into my Nydus Network from my main base. I can choose to unload that here. So I basically just unload and come from the back door because I know that his entrance is blocked out well enough that I'm not going to be able to break his entrance. And he's also got a bunch of Marines and Marauders down here, which he had... actually, you know what? Now that I look at it, it doesn't look like a hard block. I could have just walked up there if I wanted to. At any rate, the Nydus Network worked just as well also. Took out all his workers at his main base and going through his infantry army here. And, you know, part of the mistake that he made was trying to get a fast expansion, because I was able to attack a little bit quicker and he didn't have enough of an army to hold off my attack because he went for an expansion rather than trying to play aggressively. And the other part was, if you're trying to defend from something like this wall of steam vents, obviously you can't see back there because it blocks line of sight unless you have a unit or a building back there. So an easy enough way to keep an eye out for a strategy like this is to either build a building back here or just to throw a unit back here like a Marine or an SCV or something like that, so you can at least see if they start to try to build a Nydus Network. Because as the Nydus is building, you can kill it before it actually comes up out of the ground, at which point the Zerg player won't be able to get any units into your base. Or you can just position your forces so that when the Nydus Network does come up and you start sending units through it, you can defend it easily. Which he did neither of those, so this attack caught him completely by surprise. I was able to kill his entire mineral line before he was even able to respond with the Marines and Marauders that he did have at the entrance here, because he was trying to protect his front door and didn't realize there was anything coming in his back door. So basically that's the build order. I mean, I end up throwing down some more units and another hatchery here so that I can, you know, keep building just in case something that I don't expect happens, but he ends up leaving the game here shortly. So anyways, that's the way Nydus Networks work in the new StarCraft 2. They are very useful, especially considering they're now Tier 2 instead of Tier 3. So anyways, thanks for watching. Recommend my channel to other people that may be interested in StarCraft 2 videos, whether it be strategies or just checking out the game. Thanks for watching again. GG.